Welcome to Attorney 911, the podcast. With attorney Ralph Manginello. Let's get some answers to the most asked questions. We break down the legal issues and provide expert advice to help you navigate life's legal challenges. You might even call us your first responder to a legal emergency. Up next, real-world cases, valuable insights, and practical tips you can use today. It's time to get smart like a lawyer.
Hello, all Attorney 911 fans and subscribers. We appreciate you tuning in to our next episode, this episode, where we're going to talk about how to help yourself in a car collision or a slip and fall, trip and fall, what happens in work-related injury cases, and some other stuff that we've been getting a lot of questions about and we wanted to address. So thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. First of all, car collisions are not car accidents. I know you hear it all the time on television and you see it in ads and you hear people talk and say, I was in an accident. And what I'm telling you is from a legal perspective, from your lawyer's perspective, these accidents don't happen, quote unquote accidents that we call collisions, don't happen unless someone's done something wrong and caused a collision, right? So what do I mean by that? You're stopped at a stoplight, minding your own business, waiting for a green light, and the person behind you is on their phone, not paying attention or going too fast or not keeping a proper lookout, hits you from behind. That is not an accident. That is a car collision due to the negligence of the person that was behind you. That's just one example. I know you can think of 1,000 others, but we don't say accident here, we say car collision. Nonetheless, when that happens, you can go to the Attorney 911 website, or you can listen to me now and understand that you need to document that situation. That means call the police. If it's not an emergency, you don't have to call 911. You can call the regular line, looking up on your phone, and call and say, I need a police officer out here. I just got rear-ended by someone who wasn't paying attention. Can you please send someone? As soon as you've done that and they say they're on the way, start taking pictures. Take pictures of the other person's driver's license, the other person's insurance card, your vehicle, their vehicle, the closest street signs. If there's anyone there that stops and says, I saw what happened, take a picture of their license if they'll allow you to. Make sure you take down their name and phone number in your phone. I can't tell you how many times we have someone, a client, say, we had this nice lady or this nice man stop to help me. And I say, okay, great. What's their name and number? And they're like, oh, I didn't get it. So you got to make sure you document all that stuff, okay? Once the police officers come and taken down the report, done everything that they're supposed to do, make sure you go to the doctor. You can go to an urgent care. You can go to the hospital if you're seriously injured, or you can just go to your regular doctor, but someone needs to document what you're feeling. If your back hurts, your neck hurts, even if you have a headache, your knee hit the dashboard, whatever it is, you need to document it and make sure you document everything that's bothering you. If you also, if your airbag's deployed and you have a burn or a bruise or something like that, make sure you tell the doctor, because what ends up happening is, and you're dealing with insurance companies who are in the business of minimizing your recovery, they're going to say, you didn't mention your head in the initial medical report, so we don't think you injured, we don't think you had a head trauma in this collision. Or you didn't mention your back until a month after the collision, so we don't think you injured your back. Nonetheless, document. If the insurance company gives you a problem, which they most likely will, feel free to call your local attorney, call Attorney 911, and let that attorney help you deal with the insurance companies, because that's what personal injury attorneys do every day, all day, is fight insurance companies for you. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was slip and fall cases. I was just having dinner with a friend of mine on Monday night. We're sitting at our table. There's a woman walking to her table with a host and her group, and she slips and falls right on her back, just slams down on her back. And we got into the conversation, this friend of mine and I, that we don't think most people understand how injured you can get from slipping and falling. And if you think about it this way, if you, for example, are 5'5" tall or taller, you're falling that far all the way to the ground, And most of the time, like this lady, she didn't know she was going to slip and fall. So when she slipped, she went straight down on her back and didn't have a chance to brace herself or grab anything. So that's third of her body's hitting the floor. And she got up and shook it off. And I'm sure she was embarrassed because the restaurant was pretty crowded, but she may have started feeling injured during dinner or after dinner or when she got home or the next day. And that's what I'm saying is a slip and fall case against this premises owner if, in Texas, they had to have notice that this condition was there, whether it was water on the floor or grease or something had spilled, or there was a rug that was supposed to be there that was moved or folded over, whatever the reason is, they would have to know that it was there and not done anything about it timely, is in essence. And I don't know the facts other than what I saw. I didn't talk to her. I didn't look and see if there had been water there before, if the restaurant, but this was a highly traveled area. There were plenty of waiters and waitresses and staff people that had traveled that area a lot. Now, maybe her shoes were brand new and they were just too slippery and it wasn't any cause of the restaurant. I'm just making an example of if someone slips and falls. We get slip and fall cases at Attorney 911 for Walmart and Target and a lot of big box stores, grocery stores where there's a lot of high traffic and people spill stuff and stuff falls off the shelves and breaks and all kinds of stuff. So my point is, when that happens, if you think that it's the fault of the establishment or the premises owner, you follow those same guidelines that I was just going over earlier. You need to document everything. Take pictures of what you slipped and fell on if you can. A lot of times in slip and fall cases, the person's too injured. They're laying there. They're not thinking about anything other than they need help. A store manager or employee or someone will come, usually helps them up. They make a report with the store saying what happened, how they remember it happening. A lot of times they don't know what they slipped and fell on because they were just walking down the aisle or they're walking in the meat department or whatever, and they slip and fall. Sometimes it's near an ice machine or a cooler where there is a leak that can be seen. If you can take pictures of it, definitely make a report with the store or the premises manager or owner. If you don't make that report and you're like, yeah, maybe I'm fine, and you go home, 2 or 3 days later you're hurt, and then you make the report, again, an insurance company is most likely going to say, we don't really believe you. It didn't happen. Then you're going to have to hire a lawyer to get the video and go through all the investigative process. So document it. And again, see a doctor. You have to go see the doctor to document what your injuries are. A lot of problems we have, again, are when people delay going to see a doctor or getting treatment, which is understandable. Sometimes if you don't have health insurance or you're worried about the cost of the urgent care, that's totally understandable. But the best thing to do is go there if you can and do that. And if not, again, always call Attorney 911 or a lawyer in your area to get advice on those types of situations. The last thing I wanted to cover today with regards to injury cases is work-related injuries. We get a lot of calls from people that are injured on the job. They don't know what to do, which is understandable because in Texas specifically, there are companies that have workers' comp insurance, which means that if you get injured at work, their insurance company is going to pay for your medical treatment and pay for the time you are off work without you having to really do anything other than report it and go to the company doctor. But if the company that you're working for does not have workers' comp insurance, then they're called a non-subscribing employer. And what that means is that they can be sued. And obviously the difference is if the company has workers' comp insurance coverage, they cannot be sued. But if they're a non-subscriber, they do not have workers' comp coverage, and they can be sued for negligence. And so what does that mean? That means if, let's say, Joe Smith is lifting at work, lifting heavy boxes or lifting something that's too heavy for him to lift and injures his back, and the company does have workers' comp, there's not going to be usually any questions asked. They're just going to start getting him to the doctor, paying for his medical treatment. If he misses a couple weeks of work or something, they'll pay him. But a non-subscriber, same scenario, fact scenario, there is no insurance coverage to pay for his medical treatment and pay him for lost wages. If the company, out of the goodness of their heart, wants to do that, some do, that's great. A lot don't. And so he would have to go find medical treatment on his own, similar to a car collision. And he would have to seek compensation from the company on his own. And so a lot of times navigating that world is just obviously very confusing. It has legal ramifications. You want to get a lawyer involved if you're injured enough to where you're missing work and need medical treatment, because it's just really, really difficult to deal with companies and their insurance companies. So again, documentation. You got to go see the doctor. You got to make a report. You've got to take pictures if you can. Document, document, document. If there's any witnesses to your work-related incident, coworkers that you should already know, if you can get their phone number, if you don't already have it, get it. Because a lot of times employers are just going to say, no one saw you get hurt, we don't believe you, or especially if you haven't been working at this company very long, that sometimes raises a red flag with companies. But I've had cases where somebody's worked for a company for 20 years, loyal employee, showed up every day, worked all day, got injured, and then they wanted to fight their claim. So again, documentation, contact a lawyer if you have any questions. Obviously, Attorney 911 is available to help with your legal emergency, whether it's work-related, slip and fall, or a car collision. So we've been getting a lot of different fun, what I would call fun, different questions while we've been off air for the last week or so. And people send them in to us. And one recently that we've gotten a lot is, what is an indictment? Now that's criminal. That's a criminal issue, not a civil issue. We handle personal injury cases here. But to answer the question, an indictment is a formal complaint that's filed by the state of Texas charging someone with a felony crime. So that could be fraud, it can be aggravated assault, obviously murder, anything that's a felony. What happens is a grand jury will get evidence of the crime, whatever the prosecutor is saying that this person did, they'll bring in evidence of that crime. And then a grand jury who is sat to hear this evidence will decide whether or not they think there is enough evidence to charge this person with a crime. And if they think that there is, then the state will file their indictment, and then there would be a warrant, or if someone's already arrested, the indictment's already out there. But anyway, if you weren't arrested, they would file this indictment. There would be a warrant out for that person's arrest, and then they'd be arrested on that felony indictment. And so that's essentially what it is. It's a formal charge. That's a felony charge that's filed against somebody. Another question that we get is weed, where is weed legal? Is weed legal in Texas? The bottom line on that is, I don't know the complete answer, because what's really strange is on Westheimer here in Houston, Texas, there is a THC weed store. And my understanding is that it's still illegal in Texas, but somehow they're open and they're selling it. I don't know if it's a percentage of THC in it that they get away with it. I don't know, but I do know that it's legal for medical marijuana. And there are certain farms and dispensaries and those types of things in Texas, but I think you have to have a license or a registration to get it. I don't know that fully, but if I've read the law, and it does say that it is legal for medical purposes. As far as the stores that are out there that are selling it, I don't know how they're doing that, because in my research and talking with some other lawyers, it's apparently still illegal. Again, it may be a percentage thing. So you have to look that up on your own. Another question we've gotten recently is stuff on intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Are we intellectual property lawyers? We are not, but I will tell you that I use Craft and Chew, CHU, for a trademarked Attorney 911 and some other stuff for us. They're great. They're efficient. They keep you informed. Like every couple of years, we have to renew certain licenses and stuff. They're not too expensive. I'm sure they price their stuff fair. But to answer some questions, general questions is, If you want to copyright or trademark something, you do have to file that. It's a federal filing. There's a form. I would suggest you hire a lawyer to do it. Could you do it yourself? I'm probably sure that you could. I haven't. I used them. But you would need to file that with the federal government, and then they do what's called I can't remember the exact name, but they do a search to see if anybody else has already filed it before you. And if they have, then there's a conflict there. Usually the first one that files gets it. With regards to patents, that's the same thing. That can get obviously very complicated. But call Craft and Chew here in Houston, Texas. They're fantastic. Jimmy Craft is who I've been using for 20 years for stuff like that, questions, and he'd be happy to talk to you. Lastly, we've gotten what is arbitration, or how does arbitration come into play? And my basic answer to that is nowadays a lot of contracts are being written to say that if there's a dispute with something, then you need to go to arbitration. And what that is basically companies are saying, we don't want to go in front of a jury. We don't want to go through the court system. We want to go to arbitration. And arbitration is a trial, but it's with a judge. There is no jury. It's usually in a room. One lawyer's on one side, another lawyer's on the other side. You do have witnesses. You do have evidence. You do go through the trial process, but it's a judge's decision, usually a retired judge a lot of times, or a lawyer who's been practicing quite some time. And they make a final decision, and that's it. And you're stuck with that decision, whatever it is. You win X amount of money or you lose. And arbitration clauses have become more and more prevalent in contracts between companies and businesses. And people are using it a lot more. It's very expensive, a lot more expensive than the court process. But that's what big companies are looking to do. They're looking to stay out of the normal court jury trial system to protect themselves. They feel like they're getting better results out of it. So thanks a lot for joining us today. I hope I was informative. We love having you as subscribers. Make sure that you subscribe and get your friends to subscribe. Keep watching. And if you need any help with any legal emergency, if we don't handle it, we'll get you to someone who does. Thanks a lot.
You just learned something new. Attorney 911, the podcast, with attorney Ralph Manginello. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode, and share it with family and friends who might benefit from the things we talk about. A new podcast launches every week. That means you get more legal tips, real-life cases, and expert advice. This is Attorney 911, the podcast.